What you saw out of Matt Harvey yesterday, Goldschmidt, he went after him, and he was very aggressive and very good against one of the best hitters in baseball, but yet still a little spotty for him.
He was good against Tomas, too. He was good against Tomas,
yeah,
too.
eventually.
Okay, but
Tomas still got us, though.
The numbers.
Yeah, no Moss with Tomas, all right? No Moss.
Just cut it out with that guy?
Enough.
The number's good enough, though. 5 1/3, gives up 3 runs, 6 hits, 4 walks, and 5 strikeouts. Your thoughts on Matt?
No, I mean, he was in trouble essentially almost every single inning, and I know Terry was kind of, after the game talking about the fact that, and it's actually a funny quote because he only went 5 1/3,
right?
And he said from the 4th inning on, he looked great. Well, awesome, super,
right? 4 outs.
But I actually, having a chance to speak with him a couple different times, I think as far as his arm is concerned and his health is concerned, he feels good. And I think you've heard that after each one of his last starts is that he feels good. And I think he's in a situation where it's more mental than physical at this point. I don't think you see the same Matt Harvey. And I was actually in the process of sending him the video of the Chase Utley at bat a couple years ago when he hit Utley.
The bravado that he showed.
And then he just walked towards him and kind of spit the chewing tobacco at him. I'm like, that's the guy I want. Like, that's the intimidating guy I want. And I'm not necessarily sure he mentally feels that way right now just because he's struggling with his command. And this is going to sound like I'm making excuses for Matt Harvey. I'm not. I'm essentially making excuses for the entire Mets pitching staff in general, is the fact that they're all coming off injuries, right? Like DeGrom had his nerve moved. Steven Matz, still we haven't seen him yet. Lugo hurts himself in the World Baseball Classic. Wheeler's coming back from Tommy John surgery. So the biggest argument now for Mets fans and the biggest concern is length from their starting pitching, right? Because now all of a sudden you gassed your bullpen. And I don't think Sandy Alderson necessarily did a good job, in my opinion, of really fortifying the bullpen, especially knowing that Familia was going to be suspended. Now he's hurt.
No.
So the whole thing's a nightmare, right? I mean, anything that could happen wrong has happened wrong for the New York Mets right now. So I actually did some research last night and this morning, and I'm thinking to myself, because Dan Warthen actually came out and said from thoracic outlet syndrome, which most pitchers, you don't see many pitchers have that surgery. And the ones that do have the surgery, it's kind of mixed reviews on what they look like when they come back. But usually
how many guys have had that surgery?
Usually it's like a 10 to 12-month rehab process. Like not rehab, but when you get back, it usually takes 10 to 12 months to actually see the pitcher that you thought you would eventually see.
So you're pitching through it, though, along the way.
There's some things, there's some kinks you obviously need to work out. Like eventually your velocity will come back. But the biggest concerns for Matt Harvey this season have been what?
Location,
walking too many guys. He had 4 walks again last night, and the home run ball, right? Velocity looks fine. Like his velocity's actually gotten better.
He got up to 98 yesterday.
Yeah, which is great. So I'm actually doing some research, and you start talking about guys like Matt Harrison had thoracic outlet. Phil Hughes has had thoracic outlet. Chris Carpenter essentially ended his career because of the surgery. He had it. Josh Beckett, same thing. And you start doing some research on what happened to these guys afterwards, and for the most part, eventually the further away they got from surgery, the velocity just kept getting better and better. But the biggest concerns for these guys and what happened in virtually every case, and this is actually an article that someone did as far as all the research, like velocity, pitch location, all that, walks, all of it, was that the biggest area these pitchers seem to, this is a direct quote from the article, the biggest area these pitchers seem to struggle with was their command, both in and out of the strike zone. This manifested itself in a slightly higher walk rate, which we've seen, a lower percentage of pitches in the strike zone, which we've seen, and hard contact on pitches that were actually in the strike zone, including abnormally high home run rates. All things you've seen from Matt Harvey.
All things that Matt is struggling with.
Because he has velocity, but he has no movement.
Right.
So that's why we're seeing a less confident Matt Harvey on the mound.
Yeah, because he can't overpower you. He's not hitting. He's not 100 miles an hour anymore.
He's not that guy.
And his location struggles, so he doesn't necessarily know where he's throwing the ball. And when you're going to be at 95, these guys are good enough that if it's not moving, you can hit it.
Is it a mechanics issue, or is it like how does this relate to not having the same type of control though? Like explain it to anybody who doesn't understand, because this is not something. It's not a type of injury or surgery that anybody's really heard of.
No, I mean, listen, you're essentially removing a rib, right? So I mean, he talked about after the game last night that he went back to when he first became the Dark Knight and all the success he had, and he's talking about his normal arm slot. And I mean, I think what it comes down to really is when you start pitching like that and you start pitching hurt where you can't actually feel your hand and the ball and everything else, and your mechanics suffer, right? So you start picking up bad habits. So it's now trying to get back out of those bad habits.
Right.
And if you're not trusting what you're doing, you probably resort to the bad habits that you were in before you had the surgery. And I don't know, I can't sit here, I'm not a professional pitcher and tell you exactly what's going on, but every single guy, it seems that every single guy that I've done research on has had the same problems that Matt's had as they come back. It's command. It's not much movement on your pitches, which leads to more walks, higher home run rates, and that's no length.
Which makes it unfair for Matt Harvey in the position that the Mets have put him in terms of the expectations, right? We heard Terry Collins come out yesterday and say this team needs Matt Harvey to get back to what he was a couple of years ago, and a lot of our success is going to hinge on him being that guy. and that's unrealistic.
You put that out there publicly.
That's unrealistic
Yes.
to have that expectation of him.
That certainly is the problem.
So you're adding to the pressure of the situation, and that's not helping.
Because
Matt
Terry's
Harvey.
desperate. I mean, he obviously because he needs him because of all the injuries. But that's the thing, as you heard what Rick talked about, the 10 months that you need. Well, Matt doesn't. The Mets can't afford those 10 months for Matt. You were hoping if everybody was healthy, maybe you could slide him down a little bit, and don't put so much emphasis on his starts. But they need him right now, so he doesn't have the time that you hear there. It certainly does take. Here's Matt last night. If he's closer to how he used to feel before the surgery.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like I said, there was a couple pitches that, I got behind on a couple batters and made some pitches that were over the middle of the plate, and no matter how hard you're going to throw, guys are going to put it in play, and unfortunately it wasn't right at guys today, but I think it was a huge step forward for me.
So Matt Harvey feeling better about things. The Mets still lose, though. That's 7 in a row, and you wonder if panic is setting in for the Mets.